right, good morning, everyone. It's 9 o'clock, and we're going to get started here. If you'll join me and stand, we'll have a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning grateful for another precious day of life, and we just turn this meeting over to you and ask that you be in charge and you be our moderator. We just ask that we would adequately discuss the things that this county needs to make decisions on, and we pray your blessing upon those decisions and on those that will make these decisions. Lord, we pray for our servicemen and women, wherever they are across this earth, that you would take care of them, bring them home safely. And we pray for this community, Lord, that you would bless the people that live here in Titus County, bless our economy, bless the businesses here that comprise this great county. And once again, we just ask that you would take us all home safely, bless the families represented here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, today is May 12th, 2014, and it's a couple of minutes after 9 o'clock, and we're going to begin with our first meeting of the month. This is our morning meeting, and I'll start with item number 1, public comments, requests for information on non-agenda items in accordance with Section 551.042 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. I've got a couple of folks that would like to speak. Dave Wall, welcome to the podium there.
Thank you, and good morning.
Good morning.
On behalf of Boy Scout Troop 101, I bid you greetings. I got up this morning and found out that my air conditioner was functioning as a circulating fan, so I thought this might be a good day to come up here where it's air conditioned and give you all an update. As you may recall, in 2012, in December, I briefed you on an approved Titus County model garden. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond our control, that was lost. But with the Boy Scouts, we ran a test garden last year to see how we could do. It was extremely well done. And thanks to that, this year, thanks to Troop 101 and several Mount Pleasant donors, the garden is in. Last fall, we seeded the area in cover crops, multiple clovers, mustards, and 2 different types of rye grass. In March, we laid out 8 rows in that garden that are now planted. If you've driven by, you've seen the cover crops at one point reached a height of 42 inches before heavy rains beat them back down between 24 and 32 inches tall. In fact, the cover crops have looked so good that a couple of sheriff's deputies have requested Tim Ingram if they could bring their cows up and put them in the garden. We laid down 1,100 feet of tape, drip tape irrigation. We overlaid that with paper mulch. Paper mulch is something that most people are not familiar with. It is like a paper sack, except it's several times thicker. You can buy it in all different sizes. We bought a 2,400-foot roll that is, we bought a 1,000-foot roll that is 24 inches wide. We laid this down over the drip irrigation and then overlaid that with 2 inches of leaves and overlaid that with 2 inches of mulch. The paper mulch itself will rot by the fall, but it is rather durable. NTCC took a sample, immersed it in water for a week, and it was still viable. Again, thanks to the county commissioners for allowing us to get all the mulch that we wanted. As I said, we have 8 rows. They're 140 feet long. They're 9 feet apart. That's rather far apart, but we're working with youth, and I cannot have more in that garden than I can do myself. And 8 rows, trust me, is all that I can do right now. We've laid out sunflower, 1 row of sunflowers, which is a trash or sacrifice crop. Bad bugs like sunflowers more than they like tomatoes. So we laid out a row of sunflowers, then tomatoes, tomatillos, cucumbers, peppers, and okra. It has gone extremely well. It has not been without problems. The drip tape is designed to operate at 8 psi. The kit that we got came with a reducer to reduce it down to 8 psi, but unfortunately that reducer had never run into water running at 95 psi at 8 gallons a minute. As soon as we plugged it in, didn't even bother to turn it on full blast. It blew 2 end caps off and put a split 3 inches long in one of the lines. So we got a second reducer, and so far it appears to be working very well. Another problem that we've got that was unforeseen, whenever you're laying down leaves and tilling them in, you're always going to have problems with roly-polies. We knew that roly-polies like peas and beans. We did not know that they like cucumbers. In one row, they ate 36 cucumbers in a row. We've replaced those with larger cucumbers, and so far they're doing okay. And we are replacing a few plants that did die. But all in all, the Boy Scout garden is in, it's functioning, and it's going to provide an awful lot of produce this year, primarily to Titus County Cares and secondarily to the Senior Meal a Day Center. I say secondary, we can't give those hot peppers to the Senior Meal a Day Center. Thanks again to the county commissioners and to Mount Pleasant donors for making this garden possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Our next speaker, I've got Keith Kreidler. Keith, you want to address item number 4, it looks like, and hold off on that one to the next item. And then how about your comment on elections May 10th? You want to make a comment on that now? Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Some of you guys may not be aware of the Saturday election. It pretty well ended up being a disaster up there with, you know, the issues, the people not knowing where to vote. We had polling folks that we paid dollars an hour that didn't have any instructions on where to tell them to go vote. Titus County pays $81,000 annually in wages for 3 full-time employees, you know, to run these elections legally and smoothly. This did not happen. The election website for Titus County is utterly useless. If you actually go back to the results from elections in the past, you get a GoDaddy ad. That's not real professional. We've got high school kids and junior high kids that can keep their websites updated on a daily basis. We cannot even get our election website updated on a yearly basis, it appears. We're about to spend $185,000 to update the elections office for these people. We need to, commissioners need to go in there and actually meet with your election staff and figure out why NTC elections, they had no idea who voted early. It was on the honor system. If you voted early, you could vote again. Obviously, you can vote as many times as you want in Titus County for some of these offices. There were not any instruction sheets, like say at the polling places, to tell the staff where everyone should go vote for the various elections. Nobody knew where to go for the tri-water elections. Why the ballots had to be hand counted out at Cookville. Why the computers weren't up and running at some of these so they could check. Y'all need to, you know, check it. These are your employees. This is our taxpayer money. When you're out here talking to these people, the taxpayers, this is what they're mad about. They're mad about nothing being updated. And it looks like their money's being wasted. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 2, consider and possibly approve minutes from our last meeting. That was the April 28th evening special meeting of the Commissioners Court.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion we approve the minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton to approve those minutes.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of approval of the April 28, 2014 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and there are none. Item number 3, status report on Titus County pass-through projects. I've got a brief report here, kind of a follow-up, which is what I'd asked for regarding our situation with James Construction being behind on their project, but I want to read to you this brief report. Related to US 271, our main project, no work has taken place on the bridge beams for the last week and a half due to the crew being moved to Fort Worth. Williams Brothers have been working on the approaches to the bridge on the north side by bringing in fill dirt as well as removing the existing concrete in order to raise the approaches to meet up with the new bridge height. No costs are being incurred for the lack of production for the cranes sitting and not being utilized. The bridge beam crew is expected to resume work beginning Monday, which is today, per Williams Brothers. On FM 1000, or the future FM 4000, as of the letter dated April 24, 2014, to Mr. Pat Plenick with James Construction, PTP did receive a response to the follow-up email Mr. Heidecker sent to Mr. Plenick asking about the status of the schedule. Mr. Plenick was under the understanding a new schedule was sent with a response letter to the letter from Pate dated April 24. PTP did receive a schedule on May 6th, but it did not address many of the concerns in the letter. After correspondence with Judge Lee, it was decided to call a meeting with Pat Plenick and Scott Pickett on Wednesday the 14th of this week to discuss the concerns of the time frame of the project and the lack of staff and progress made to this schedule. So we have that meeting scheduled for this Wednesday at 11 a.m. after their normal weekly meeting. So if one of you would like to sit in with me on that, you're welcome to do so.
I'll already be out there too.
Okay, you'll be there? All right, thank you. All right, this third update here on FM 4000 leads over into our next agenda item. And so before I read the Pate portion of their report, let me go ahead and move into item number 4. Consider and possibly approve a property owner request for dam and driveway relocation on the FM 4000 project at a cost of $75,000. This is on the FM 4000 project. We're titling this subject the Denman Southern Remainder. Remainder is the phrase that they're using to describe what is left of a property owner's property after some of their property is purchased during right-of-way proceedings. So the remainder is what Mr. Denman still owns. The property owner requests a couple of things. Relocate a dam across a pond from being split on the right-of-way to being 20 feet on the remainder so that the driveway can be connected from County Road 4710 to the existing. That's an estimated cost of $75,000. And then request number 2 would be to relocate the driveway that was planned to be constructed near the pond from FM 1000 to the existing driveway to a location on the western end of the remainder. Estimated cost from PTP, no cost if relocating the driveway. So that would be a matter of simply moving the driveway from one location to another. There's no cost differential. Here's PTP's recommendation. PTP recommends no action on relocating or reconstructing the dam across the pond. The roadway construction only removes existing asphalt on top of the dam that served as existing driveway that is within the right-of-way. No changes are made to the dirt slopes or existing drainage pipe leaving the pond. A separate contractor would have to be brought in to accomplish this work, as the roadway contractor would not have experience performing and has completed their dirt work operations with the exception of small areas. The driveway as planned would connect to the existing driveway to FM 1000 to serve as a direct connection. Relocation of the driveway would remove access to the existing driveway. The property owner has placed a gravel roadway on the remainder property to the location where the driveway is being requested. No notification was given until this gravel roadway was in place. PTP recommends that relocation not take place due to causing access break. Okay, with us today is Mr. Denman. Mr. Denman, if you'd like to come up here to the podium. Well, sure, you can say anything you want, and this is your opportunity. I specifically put it on there to give you a shot. This is Pate's recommendation, but it doesn't give us your side of the story, and so again, you're welcome to come up.
That's fine.
Okay.
One thing a little bit I can make clear is I don't expect taxpayers to pay for it.
Okay.
I want that known today. I had a conversation with Thomas
Okay, all right. Mr. Kreider, you have any comment in light of that response?
Yeah, I visited with Chuck out there. I was out there knocking on doors on all the area out on county roads that I can get to. You know, he's actually got a February 3rd, 2012 bid here from John Stevenson, dirt contractor, one of our local contractors. This is for removing the dam, cutting in a new dam, installing 700 feet of asphalt for $31,200. PTP seems to be overcharging on a lot of these different change orders. We can have various change orders for $1.8 million out here on the bridge, and we get one bid from it. But, you know, here's a bid for less than half of what they're saying to do it. And if you guys have driven out there and actually gone up on his dam is 20 feet within that right-of-way. It's already washing out on the backside and watch out, if you go out there in the next couple of days and see that, the water coming down that cut, it's going to wash out the back end of that dam. You know, when you've already had 30 or 40 acres of your property taken over and split by this, you know, this is on the plans. You can go back to Google Maps from 2 years ago and see that roadway was going to take out his dam and his driveway. PTP's known about this, and James Construction's known about this for years. They were out there yesterday, out there shooting the grade again for this driveway. If it was your driveway, you would want this done, and you would want PTP to go pay for it.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen, is there anyone that would like to make a motion on this item number 4? Okay, in the absence of a motion, I'll ask one more time.
I'll make a motion we table this.
All right, motion by Commissioner Riddle to table this matter. Do I have a second? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Any other discussion or comment on this item? All right, we'll move on. Item number 5, consider and possibly approve a resolution and order approving the County Transportation Infrastructure Fund Grant Program Agreement, designating an authorized representative and making specific findings required by the Texas Department of Transportation. We tabled this from a couple of weeks ago primarily to give us a chance to relook at our road projects and revise our prioritized road projects to fall within the amount of the grant. The amount of the grant that we'll be receiving was awarded at $366,000, and that means that the total cost available to be worked on would be about $409,000. That would represent the county's 10% match along with TxDOT's 90% match. Our first step in this process to begin to allow us to start work on our road projects that are going to be funded by this grant, we have to complete and approve a resolution and order. And I want to read to you the high points out of this and make sure that everyone understands what it is that we're agreeing to. But this is a resolution and order approving the County Transportation Infrastructure Fund Grant Program Agreement, designating an authorized representative, and making specific findings. I want to read over these findings, and I previously left you all a copy of this. I'll be glad to read every word of it, but I want to hit on the main points here as to what we're agreeing to. The Commissioners Court of Titus County makes the following findings in the exercise of discretion and authority extended to said Commissioners Court by Texas law, and such findings are made upon due inquiry and satisfactory proof that such findings are factual and based upon commonly accepted practices and standards by Texas counties. It is the finding of this Commissioners Court that the county has experience in the construction and maintenance of all county roads currently in the county road maintenance inventory, and that the county has suitable equipment, experience, and personnel to properly repair such roads without the utilization of outside contractors, or if such contractors are required, in the prudent expenditure of county and grant funds, that such contractors will be selected upon demonstrated competence and the lowest and most suitable bid if competitive bidding is required. In this regard, the county has suitable design standards, specifications, and quality assurance procedures in place to assure that the resulting road maintenance projects are properly constructed with suitable materials and that appropriate safety and environmental procedures will be utilized. The county representative is hereby expressly authorized to certify to such. So that's the first finding here. You're basically saying you know how to make these road improvements, and if you use outside contractors, that you know how to go through the bidding process to get the best job done. So that's item number one that we must agree to. It is the further finding of this Commissioners Court that the county will utilize generally accepted cost accounting practices in the financial aspects of this grant administration, and that proper documentation of all expenditures will be maintained by the appropriate county officials responsible for financial aspects of the grant administration. The county representative is hereby expressly authorized to certify to such. So here we're saying that we've got to be sure we're doing all the accounting for these jobs properly. This will mean that I would suggest that you get with Carl before beginning any of this work and decide exactly how your accounting methods are going to be handled so that we can provide the appropriate documentation to TxDOT in order to be fully refunded or fully funded for our portion of the, or for the TxDOT provided portion of these grant funds on each road project. The next finding, it is the further finding of this Commissioners Court that all road right-of-way involved in projects identified for funding under this grant is presently within the county road maintenance inventory and no new right-of-way is required. I think that one's self-explanatory. It's the further finding of this Commissioners Court that Titus County will notify all public utilities, water supply corporations, and common carriers of record of their plans to repair, renovate, or construct the project roads identified in the grant application, and will cooperate with the said utilities and common carriers for protection of such infrastructure. It is not anticipated that any relocation of utilities will be required. The county representative is hereby expressly authorized to certify to such. It is the further finding of this court pursuant to 40 Code Federal Regulation Section 1500 and specifically Section 1508.4 and 33 of the United States Code Section 1344 that county road maintenance projects are not prohibited by the National Environmental Protection Act nor the Water Pollution Prevention and Control Act, and that as a categorical exclusion, such projects pose no significant effect on the human or natural environment, and which this court finds to have no such adverse impact, and therefore do not require an environmental impact assessment of the projects contemplated in this grant, in that no federal funds are being used by the county in meeting the grant requirements. The county shall comply with applicable state environmental standards as applicable, and as such, this finding further authorizes the county representative to make certifications regarding compliance with environmental requirements of the grant, which is expressly approved by this court. It is the further finding of this court that as a public roadway open to all residents for use as a public road designed for vehicular traffic, as defined by statute and other applicable law, that the road projects subject to this grant are in full compliance with the Texas Accessibility Standards and the Americans with Disabilities Access Standards, as the same apply, and the county representative is hereby expressly authorized to certify to such. Finally, it is the further finding of this Commissioners Court that where necessary, any materials required for the completion of this project shall be solicited by a standard that is known to be suitable for use in road construction and repair projects, and the county will require such testing as may be deemed appropriate to determine that such materials meet any applicable standards, either by specification or by direct inquiry with the provider or vendor of such materials. The county representative is hereby expressly authorized to certify to such. So I would ask you, are there any of these projects that you've identified and that we've listed here for you that you have any question about regarding these findings? Does it require any additional right-of-way? Does it require any special notification of utilities or water districts? Is it all in compliance with EPA requirements? And we know how to account for it, and we know how to take bids if it is necessary. Any of these findings that you're wanting further clarification on? All right. As part of this motion, we also need to designate a county representative, and a couple of weeks ago I suggested that that be the county judge. We're making these particular findings, so I'm asking for your wish on the approval of this resolution and order, which was drafted by Allison Bass as part of our agreement with them. So it is drafted in the appropriate format. We are essentially designating a county representative and agreeing to these findings.
All of that's in one motion.
It would be.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Commissioner Hockaday and a second by Commissioner Hinton to approve this resolution and order approving the County Transportation Infrastructure Fund Grant Program Agreement, designating authorized representative, which is the county judge, and making specific findings required by TxDOT. All those in favor of approving this document, the representative, as stated, say aye.
Aye. But I think we should note, for the benefit of the audience, that this is part of that energy company's grant that they decided through a deal with the legislature that they would reimburse the counties for the energy, oil drilling and stuff, the roads they've torn up. And we were granted on a percentage, as all counties were, and we applied for that grant, and that this is the results of that. And I don't know what we finally got. We have to pay 10%, the taxpayers do, and then the rest of it, 90% is paid for by this grant. And I don't know what our final approval amount was, but it was for.
Did you see this document? The total amount that we will receive from TxDOT, assuming we do all the projects appropriately, is $366,029. The county match would be $40,670. That means the total estimate of these 8 projects is $406,699. And again, 10% is expected to be contributed by the county, and 90% will be reimbursed by the state. And yes, this does go back to the CETRZ, the County Energy Transportation Reinvestment Zone project that we approved a couple of months ago. And so we'll be ready to. Now, I do want to discuss these. I do have to, as part of the package that I send into TxDOT, they have asked us to resubmit our requested projects that we originally started off with 21 different projects because we had no idea what the total amount of the grant would be. We were approximately doubling what we expected, so we've ended up, instead of getting about $311,000, we've ended up getting a $366,000 grant. And so after speaking with you, I have tried to allocate that money to the projects that you told me were your priorities. And you'll note that Precinct 4 here has virtually given nearly all of their money to the other precincts, especially Precinct 3. So thank you, Commissioner Hockaday, for allocating your funds where it's mostly needed. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different projects. Now, we do not have to stick with these 8. If you find a reason that you need to make adjustments to this suggested list and the costs end up going up or down, we can reallocate funds while we are working through these 8 different projects. But we will certainly want to keep TxDOT informed, so I need you to keep me informed of these projects as we go along. We don't want to leave money on the table, but neither do we want to extend beyond what the state match is agreed upon unless we're, aware of that. So we will stay in communication. We are not ready to begin work on these projects yet. We need to submit our paperwork and get approval to begin from TxDOT. Okay, so we did have a unanimous vote there with no opposition. Okay, I'm going to move on now to item number 6. We have with us today Steve Austin, and we're going to consider and possibly approve eligibility requirements for honorees on the In the Line of Duty Memorial and set a date for that ceremony. This is a memorial that we had previously approved, and Steve's worked diligently to come up with some eligibility requirements so that we have it clearly defined, you know, who is going to be on this both now and in the future, this particular, what's the word that how do you best describe this, a monument?
Yes, it's a memorial.
Okay. All right, Steve, welcome.
Well, thank you, Commissioners. Last year at this time, I approached the court and asked permission to utilize the courthouse property for the placement of a monument honoring our first responders, primarily peace officers, firefighters, EMTs. We also made provisions for officers of the court that those who perished in the line of duty would be honored and remembering would be sustained. We selected a location which is out by the east stairs, sidewalk in the entrance ramp to the south, in the south corner here on the right. Fitch Memorials gave us an estimate, and we started seeking donations. Within about a month and a half, we made our goal of $1,000, which pays for the monument. We've had some additional donations over that. So in the event that we might have to add a name or so, we're covered for 1 or 2 names in the future. We hope we never have to add any. Also, I drafted some recommendations to consider for requirements. I made copies of those available to the commissioners during last month so they could be reviewing them. And basically, it's as stated, it's in the line of duty serving Titus County, or a family or a member of Titus, a resident of Titus County serving another jurisdiction, or an individual from another jurisdiction serving in Titus County. Basically, a police officer, a law enforcement officer, whether it be Titus County or not, say a federal marshal from another jurisdiction, if they perish serving as citizens or perish in Titus County, they could be considered eligible for the placement of their name on this monument. A Titus County resident that perishes in some other jurisdiction would also be eligible to have their name placed on this monument. And in addition to that, we gave the Commissioners Court an opportunity to review any application by a family, to review an application to be eligible to be placed on the memorial itself. And that could be considered by the Commissioners Court. I have 4 names to present for consideration and would also like to recommend a date for the dedication. The first honorees' names to be placed on the monument are presented as follows. 1, Titus County Precinct 8 Constable Edward Price, end of watch March 22nd, 1933. Number 2, Mount Pleasant Volunteer Fire Department firefighter Robert Bob Simpson, end of watch May 8th, 1962. Number 3, Mount Pleasant Police Department Patrol Sergeant Charlie Jerry Shepard, end of watch July 17th, 1985. Number 4, Texas Forestry Service firefighter Roland Lambert, end of watch May 27th, 1990. Again, those names are proposed for approval by the Commissioners Court. In speaking with John Fitch Memorials, was hoping to make this dedication Peace Officers Memorial Day, which will be May 15th of this year. Unfortunately, the stone is still in transit, hasn't been received in port or come through customs yet, but it's merely weeks away, we hope. And once received, the engraving and etching will take place fairly quickly. So it's in the very near future that we'll be able to make this dedication, but it's not going to be by our first anticipated May 15th deadline. Now beyond that, we have firefighters Remembrance Day coming up in mid-October, but we also have another opportunity before that. In seeing that 9/11 honors first responders in, of course, the initiation of the global war on terror. But the fact that that particular day denotes not only firefighters, but peace officers and civilians and other folks that came to the aid of their fellow men on that day, that might be a good date to propose to honor and make this memorial dedication. That's the date that I would recommend. And I think that we, as citizens, we kind of wander around on 9/11, kind of figure out what to do with ourselves. It's a good day to be patriotic, but I think this will give us locally a good day to utilize and make 9/11 mean a little more than something that took place in New York. It's a down-home thing too. So my recommendation would be to have the Commissioners Court review applications for eligibility and in keeping with the spirit of those recommendations, and that new names be approved by the Commissioners Court, and that the dedication date for the proposed monument tentatively be set pending some problems from the memorial contractor, John Fitch, that we look at 9/11 as a dedication date. Any questions?
Steve, how much room, after you put these first 4 on there, how much room will be left on that?
There'll be limiting the amount of information that we put on there. We've gone to a lot of trouble to try to cover as many jurisdictions with the emblazoned emblems from not only county but city and state and federal government badges and emblems to try to cover the spectrum. But with the simple put the name, the rank and department and the end of watch date, we could probably add another 4 or 5 without any difficulty. We've kept the monument small. In the event we have to add an additional footstone or something, another base plate, that could always be done at a very minimal cost. And we do have some residual funds from the purchase of the stone to make a couple of additional names that can be added very easily, and that cost is already covered. Hopefully we won't ever have to add any. That's my hope.
Tell me again where the location is going to be. It's over here on the east side. How close is it to the...
As you exit the courthouse, the wide sidewalk and the front sidewalk join in that right-hand corner in the grass next to the sidewalk area, kind of angled out so that it can be seen from various aspects. There's a hedge right there close to it. Now, without disturbing the hedge, I think it'd be better to kind of turn it catty corner. If they want to make special changes in the hedge, that's up to the county. But I don't see that anything special has to be done to landscaping.
You probably said this and I didn't hear you. Who submits this list to you recommend to the Commissioners Court? Who prepares the list? You said that, names, I'm sorry.
As far as these names?
Well, no, all names or whatever. You said that they would present them to the...
could make the presentation to the Commissioners Court.
Yeah, who prepares that presentation to the Commissioners Court?
In the future, a family member could make an appeal to the Commissioners Court to consider their family member as an eligible candidate, with the criteria being...
I mean, anyone could make a recommendation.
Yes, yes.
What's the requirements, the eligibility requirements? Did you say that, or did you cover that?
Yes, sir. The eligibility requirements are in the sheet that are made available to all the commissioners. And first off, would be, first consideration would be a resident of Titus County, or serving the citizens of Titus County in the line of duty, or coming from another jurisdiction and have a death in the line of duty within the jurisdiction of Titus County. Another item would be on special occasion that an appeal for whatever reasons could be made through the Commissioner's Court. And in keeping with the spirit, it's to maintain the memory. It's not necessarily for the family or for the individual, but it's the citizens themselves and honoring not only the individuals but those departments who come forward when they hear the sound of chaos. They go toward it instead of the other direction.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So it could be one of our own who's working far away. It
Yes.
could be somebody who came to Titus County to help us that was killed while they were here working for us. So
Yes.
it can be.
An example of that is firefighter Roland Lambert. He works for the state. His home was in the Gilmer area, Upshur County. He perished in the Christmas Day fire. Actually, he perished sometime later of injuries sustained. The Christmas Day fire back in 1990. But he qualifies as having served the citizenry of Titus County. And of course, Jerry Shepard, born in Titus County, died in Titus County in the performance of duties as a patrol sergeant. We have Titus County Constable Edward Price. At that time, precinct 8 was Winfield. Titus County Constable died in the line of duty within the jurisdiction of the county. And the only other addition would be Mr. Simpson, firefighter Simpson, who was a member of the Mount Pleasant Volunteer Fire Department, not the full-time firefighters. And his situation was he was, in his volunteer status, they were fighting the hat factory fire back in, I think it was 1962 somewhere, or 58 actually. And he was overcome by smoke inhalation, passed out, and had to remove him unconscious from the roof. He died 4 years later, but special consideration being that beyond that point, family and friends provided evidence, although the death certificate doesn't say that he died as a direct result of the fire. Family and friends gave enough testimony to make me believe that his quality of life had diminished to the point where the stress put on him as a result of fighting that fire in a voluntary status makes him eligible for the consideration.
Thanks, Steve, for the time you spent on this. We'll look forward to the finished product.
Yes, sir.
Motion by Commissioner Fields and a second by Commissioner Hinton, and that is approving the eligibility requirements and a tentative date of 9/11/14. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And there are none. All right, item number 7, Kenny Rollins, our County Agricultural Extension Agent, and his wife, Luann, are here today. Welcome, Kenny and Luann.
Thank you. We're here today to acknowledge a 100-year partnership of building a better Texas. In 1914, the Smith-Lever Act was passed that created the Texas Extension Service, and that brings educators with university-based research knowledge and life skills to programs for local county residents. So at this time, what we would like to do is present the Titus County Commissioners Court the Building Better Texas Award for your participation and for your support of the Extension Service programs.
Excellent. 100 years. What's the actual date?
Smith-Lever Act.
Why don't you go down there and get a picture with it? Or we can do all of this.
Why don't we just all stand up here? Everybody come in.
Shortly thereafter.
Come on, man. Come on.
You want to go down here with me? Kenny, come on up. Shove these chairs down here.
Come here, Ken. Got it. Get in there. Sideways.
Don't stand up.
There you go. Everybody, it's mine.
Don't get your glare off.
Maybe you already did.
I never get this one picture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Wonder how that Ron worked out.
Always like the county flags and everything.
All right, item number 8 is to consider and possibly take action on 3 separate offers to purchase delinquent property previously removed from the tax rolls that didn't sell at auction. We call these, or we refer to these as struck-off property. I've got 3 pieces here for you to consider. And this is Tim Taylor bringing these items. The first is a, let's see, this is a mobile home that was struck off at a delinquent tax auction back in October of 2013. We have a Corinthus Moore has offered $500 for this property. The original judgment was $2,591. The taxable value for this property is listed as $5,664. So there's a $500 offer on something that had an original judgment of $2,591 and a taxable value at $5,664. So let's do these one at a time.
Okay, Tim recommends to do this. Go ahead.
He's clearly recommending one of these 3 we take the offer because it exceeds what the original judgment. He is saying on these 2, it's kind of up to you. This one's such a small amount. This second one, I think you'll see the disparity between the offer and the value. Although this one, $500 against a $2,600 judgment amount, is not that far off. Could this be negotiated to get a little bit more money? I'm thinking it possibly could. But nonetheless, I'll ask, what would you like to do on this first one, which is a trailer house?
Is that the one you're talking about, trying to see if we can get some more?
This is one of 2 that I think we could get a little bit more money out of Mr. Moore, but if not, it may sit there indefinitely. So here's a chance to clean up one item, but then again, you might squeeze a few hundred more out of it. I don't know, nor does Tim Taylor know.
I make a motion we table.
Where did that come from? We hadn't seen that, right?
You have not seen this. This is Tim Taylor, who handles our delinquent property tax collections, and occasionally when he sells or attempts to sell these properties at auction, you know, most of the time they sell. In these particular cases, he couldn't get a bid enough to cover the judgment amount. And so this is one of those where at least he has an offer on it. It's not a real good offer. So he's saying, what do you want me to do? Take this offer, or do you want to continue to let it sit there as struck off property and maybe put it in a future auction, or maybe we'll get somebody else that might want to up the offer?
How did we get those offers?
How?
I've been to the auctions. I've attended
Perhaps it was someone who attended the auction and witnessed it not bringing the bare minimum. Maybe it's a neighbor who inquires about it. I don't know how these come up. Maybe Mr. Moore, who's making the offer, was in attendance there at the tax auction.
I think that's important to know where these offers came from. We could have some inside trading, you know, like they do in the stock market.
Well, that's why we're here to approve whether or not we want to take it or not.
I'd like to know where they came from. I mean, how they came, where they would, because I think that's kind of a wide open door.
Well, Corinthus Moore lives at...
had an offer from who? You know, I don't, that's not very good business. When we got our buddy to bid on it, you know? Hey, I know where you can get this piece of property cheap.
Well, that may be so, and that's why it's up to us to decide if we want to accept it or not. $500 on a $2,600 judgment amount. We're going to table this, is what I have a motion. Do I have a second, or did I miss it? A second. All those in favor of tabling this request by Mr. Moore on this particular trailer house, say aye. Aye. All right. Here's property number 2. This is lots number 13, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 of the Swano subdivision, the Hannah Carter survey. Marjorie Burns with East Texas Hope Center and Homeless Ministries has offered $500 for this property. This is several lots down in the Cason area. She's offered $500 on a judgment amount of $30,663. The taxable value for this property listed at $24,471. I personally think that that's an easy decision not to consider a $500 offer on this property in Cason. To table or to decline? All right. Motion by Commissioner Fields to reject this offer of $500. Second by Commissioner Hockaday. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, and lastly, I have received a bid for the purchase of the above referenced tract, which is a ½ acre in the William White survey in Titus County. He's received a bid from Mr. Chavez Mata. His bid is $10,748.66 for this parcel, which is a house and lot located on County Road 4950 in the Cason area of Titus County. The judgment amount was $9,449. At this time, I recommend the approval of this sale, which will result in the property being returned to the active tax roll. So again, this was a piece of property that didn't get a minimum bid. We now have an offer of $10,748, which exceeds the judgment amount of $9,449. If any of you would like to take a look at this plat of this lot and house in the Cason area, I have those diagrams here.
4950 is the loop of Cason down there. It's pretty desolate down through there. So I'll make that motion to accept the bid.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hockaday to accept $10,748.66 on this ½ acre piece of property. A second by Commissioner Hinton. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Sold 1 out of 3 there. Item number 9, consider and possibly take action on a proposed multiple use agreement with TxDOT regarding advanced county road signs. We had a visit last week. Commissioner Fields happened to be there when TxDOT came to see me. We had a couple of their representatives, and I'd like you to take a look at the 2 photographs that I've given to you. And Mike, if you'll help me in my description of this, if I make a wrong turn here. Essentially what TxDOT wants to know, they're calling these advance road signs, and these are signs that are on TxDOT state roads that as they approach our county roads, you will see a roughly rectangular sign saying, for example, in this picture, County Road 4789. So warning you that the next left turn or right turn would be County Road 4789. TxDOT has been providing those signs, again called advance road signs. So they're placed in advance of the turn onto a county road. And they have decided that as part of their cost-cutting measures, they are proposing giving a little and taking a little. The taking away would be they would like to be able to get out of the business of providing those advanced county road signs. And what they are willing to give us is a county road marker that's there at the intersection of our road and their state road. That would be a larger sign with larger lettering. Here again, you take a look at that County Road 4789. They're giving you a horizontal marker, similar to what we're using, but considerably larger. That's an 8-inch tall sign with 6-inch tall letters and 3 feet long. And they would be responsible for placing those signs at the intersection. So you get a larger county road marker sign, but they would no longer replace the advance county road signs as you're traveling down their road, getting close to our county road. And so we can essentially tell them, you know what, we're not going to take any, not going to take any action. We're going to either continue to maintain these advanced county road signs, or we disagree with what TxDOT is doing and don't want to agree to that. Mike, what can you add to that?
Okay, the county road advanced sign, what they're saying in the future, they're all up over the county everywhere right now. They would stay there. But in the process, bush hogging, or somebody has an accident or something and knocks that sign down, instead of having this advanced sign put back up, they would put this sign up, and they would take the other from the instead of 2 signs, they're just going to put 1 on top of the stop sign. Instead of the advanced warning signs that you're going to have a county road up here, it would go to this 1 sign that's on top. But now this is a very big sign. The signs that we have up there now are white and red, and they're fairly small. This you can see a lot longer way off. What they're trying to do is save money. Instead of keeping up these signs, advanced signs, if one is torn down. Right now I think all over the county we're okay. But in the next 8, 10, 15 years, as these signs deteriorate or as these signs are destroyed or something, instead of coming back and putting these advanced warning signs on each side of that county road, there'd just be 1 sign, and that will be done by the state. Now, if we decide to maintain this sign, then we're going to have to put the sign up, and we're going to have to do the same thing the state does by putting up warning signs. And just like the state, when they're replacing signs, we have to put everything up. Anytime you're on state right-of-way, we're going to have to do it just like they do. All they're saying, if you don't want the advanced warning signs, then we can actually do nothing. We don't have to vote for it. We don't have to vote against it. They would just automatically do that. What this is cost savings for the state of Texas. They felt like over a period of time it'd save the state about $18 million. But here again, they come back and they put it on the back of the local county. If you want to keep these advanced warning signs, we're going to have to pay for them, or do we pay for the signs, or they make them, we have to put them up?
I understand. Are they going to pay for these signs when they're not put on their stop signs there?
Yes.
They will pay for that?
Yes.
That's not what I understood them in Austin when we was in school last time.
Well,
so they weren't going to pay for any of them.
I asked that deal. They said they will not pay for these signs and stuff, but they said they would pay for that one.
Essentially what we're telling, if we sign this agreement, we're essentially saying we're going to take over responsibility of these advanced road signs, which would be the very best for TxDOT. It costs them the least amount of money. Right. If we say we're not going to sign this, the state will then keep an eye out, and as they see our advanced road signs getting knocked down, or if we notify them, they will come in and say, okay, we're not going to replace that sign, but we are going to replace your cross sign marker with a bigger sign, more visible sign, in lieu of the 2 signs.
Okay. I didn't understand it that way when they presented that down in school.
Well, I asked him, because to me, you know, we're going to have to put it up, whatever, but they will make the sign and they will put that up. What it amounts to, they're going to take 2 signs down. If one's tore down, they're going to take the other sign from the other direction down, and they will put up this sign.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
I don't either. That's fine with me. So we don't need to make a motion.
And again, nobody's going to remove any of these advanced signs. They'll just, over time, as they go down, they don't get put back up. But a newer and better and larger, county road sign will go up. Okay, who wants to make that motion? You understand it the best. Would you like to make that motion, Commissioner Fields?
I make a motion that we,
Essentially, you'd be rejecting this agreement if you want the county to not do anything. In other words, let the old advanced signs get knocked down over time and allow
them to put
TxDOT to put up the new crossroad sign.
Right.
Okay, so you're going to reject, okay, motion by Commissioner Hinton to reject the multiple use agreement as proposed by TxDOT.
Wait a minute. You mean we want them to continue to put these up? No, we want them not to.
By rejecting this contract, we're telling TxDOT this. We're not going to replace the advanced road signs. We understand that you're not going to replace them, and we understand that you're going to start replacing the knocked down advanced signs with a bigger road sign. Okay.
10-4. Yeah.
Okay. And who seconded it? Did you second that? Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of rejection of this multiple use agreement on advanced county road signs, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 10, consider and possibly take action on storage needs during and after the Ratliff remodel. Chris Basham is back today, and as you'll recall, at our last meeting, we approved moving forward with the Ratliff remodel, but we opted not to spend any money on the Cadell building as temporary and long-term storage. And Mr. Basham is here to explain to you why he'd like for you to reconsider that.
The part of the original agreement on consolidating or renovating the Ratliff building was to move tax and vehicle registration over to half of the building and consolidate the elections administration into the other half of the building. We also discussed the idea that it would be phased and that neither of the phases would start until after the elections, which has just happened this past weekend. One of the other conditions that we have to have before we can start construction is we need to clean out the south half, which is primarily all storage right now. Storage and the public meeting rooms that are in that south half toward the post office, that need to be cleaned out. I have to have some place to put that. Earlier discussions had that they would be moved somewhere over into the annex. We talked about where the break room is for the annex right now is one of the possibilities. We also had talked about, y'all had discussed the idea of building a new building on the corner over there across the entryway into the elections administration on that corner, building a new building for storage. The renovations in the annex have found a way to get adult probation without using that Cadell building. What we recommended was turn the Cadell building into the storage for elections administration. It's more than enough space to do that, but before you can do that, we have to do some things to make it usable as storage space, i.e. we need to air condition it, we need to put power back in it. When we did the demo, we cleaned out all the insufficient and non-code requiring electrical that was in there. There was stuff that was 80, 90 years old in there. We also took out the old air conditioning that wasn't working in there. So to make it usable for storage right now, and I've got a revised cost estimate on here for you that I'll hand you in just a second. To make it usable, we need to do several things. One, we need the storage before I can start the Ratliff contractor over there, and I haven't put those out for a bid yet because until I know that I've got that place cleaned out, I can't give the contractors a start date. And we'd hope to start that in about June, is what we said originally. We start the renovations in June for the Ratliff building. But what we need to do to the Cadell building, which is that corner one that's 2 foot down, and I've gone back and minimized what we need to do, but we still need to chip board the north and the south walls. The north wall is where there was an old loading dock. It's really nice historically, but we need to cover that up so that it's secure. On the south wall, we need to cover it up because there's some holes in the wall, and that needs to be closed up before we can actually use it. We need to close off the windows. Those old jalousie glass windows in there are not secure. They're not energy efficient. So what I'm recommending is we basically pull them out and block them up. Stucco the outside and chipboard the inside. We talked about air conditioning, and in the previous discussion, we did not include a drop ceiling. We can put a drop ceiling in there, and you'll see that it's about $3,000 cost to drop a ceiling in there. We would duct the supply air in and we'd reuse an existing air conditioning unit that I pulled off of the demolition. Is still working. It's a 3-ton unit. So I cut the cost on that. We had originally about $4,000 or $5,000 in there for buying a new air conditioning unit. I can reuse one of the ones that we were going to reuse in adult probation, reuse it over there. So all we're paying for really is ducting and hooking up the unit. We would drop the ceiling in there, and then we'd just pull the return air underneath the unit, just like you would in a lot of different places. We would also put a 4-foot door. We'd take one of those doors out. There's 2 3-foot doors in there. I'd take one of those out, reframe it, put a 4-foot door, so it makes it easier to get that equipment, those rolling equipment stuff in and out of that door. They'll go through a 3-foot door, but it's tight. So I'd put a 4-foot door in there to make it a little easier. And then power and lighting. The cost that's on there right now, and I'll give you this breakout, is $25,000. And you can see the breakout on the next sheet. We can also reduce that by dropping the restroom in there. We originally had in there a restroom. The restroom cost with all the fixtures, tiles, building facility, and everything is about $5,000. If it's only going to be storage for now, we could actually drop the restroom in that facility, and that would drop that $5,000.
Chris, I think perhaps we had some confusion at the last meeting, and the discussion was, well, if we just need some temporary storage, well, first of all, we were thinking that we could just reallocate the items that were stored there over into one side of the building while we worked on the other one. That's an incorrect assumption. You actually need to get some of that stuff out of the building. You can't just shove it all into the north side while you work on the south side, then shove it back to the south side while you work on the north side. There's too much stuff. You've got to get it out of there.
Well, it's got to come out because there's not enough room to move it to the north side right now. And even if we did and we stacked it up, we could maybe cram it in there. But then I got nowhere to go with it after I moved, because on the south side, we're actually renovating that for Leonard's offices and that whole area. So it wouldn't go back. It doesn't go back there. So then I had to have it moved before I can renovate for the tax and vehicle registration.
And then we had talked about some temporary storage, maybe an air-conditioned mini warehouse or something during construction.
You could do that.
That takes care of during construction, but at the end of construction, you still don't have any place to put some of his things, like primarily voting machines, and unless we want to be in the long-term storage rental business, which we don't, I don't think, we've got to have some place to go. And this has always been your recommendation, that that back corner that's 3 feet lower than everything else is a logical place for storage. And then we discussed again the drop ceiling, and Mr. Kreidler, gave his opinion on, the inefficiency of not having that drop ceiling, and I agree with that, and so you're suggesting an alternative there. But so now we're back to having to relook at this as possible temporary and during construction and post-construction storage.
It would be the permanent storage. I mean, one of the other criteria that we were trying to do with the storage over there was keep it close to the elections administration. And so by being right across the street was one of the options that we looked at earlier. And now that this is re-available, I say re-available because it wasn't earlier, now this is re-available. It's an existing space that's relatively inexpensive to renovate, make it for permanent storage, and would also be available in the future for other offices if you needed to. Because it's good space. It's sound structure. It's less expensive than building a new building, and it's more convenient than doing a storage unit somewhere. And I don't think that the folks in election administration would necessarily like having all their stuff moved somewhere in a storage unit. They'd rather keep it close where they can check on it. They have to service it prior to the elections. So being across the street, they could go over there in an air-conditioned space, service the equipment before they deploy it to the sites and bring it back. So it's a good solution.
So your revised bid does include a drop ceiling for the entire, what is that, 1,300 feet, something like that? It's the entire space that's designated on here. Eliminating the bathroom could save a few $1,000s.
Say $5,000.
And then you'd end up with a 1,300 square foot drop ceilings, no bathroomed storage area with a 4-foot door. And ultimately, only about half of it is needed for storage. So you would have the north half available for some other county function after you took care of your storage needs.
Potentially. The other thing that we would do in there is, I mean, I've done this before, and anytime you offer storage space, it gets filled up. So if it's 1,300 square foot, it'll get used for storage for elections administration, unless you draw a line and say don't cross this line. But the other thing we put in there that I didn't mention was shelving. We've got 2 foot of shelving, 4 foot shelves along the south wall and along half of the east wall, just to allow them to stack boxes and stuff, and makes the storage a little bit more efficient. Again, not a big cost on that. I don't believe the cost on that was about $3,000. So, I mean, that could be eliminated too.
Okay.
Y'all's call. It's just, I just need some place to be able to move this stuff. I would prefer, and I know he would prefer, that it be in a permanent location, so you move it once instead of moving it twice. I think they prefer to have it close so they can service it. This is about as close as you can get, except sitting on it. So I'll put it up for y'all's decision on how you want to proceed forward on it. The construction on this would, like I say, it's going to be under 20. If we drop the bathroom, if we drop the shelving, it'll drop down to about 17. You can get this done in about 10 days. Okay. And I would probably just say we'd just pick somebody to go do it rather than advertise it. It's a small amount, and I have no preference on who does it, but there's several people we could arrange to get in and get it done.
You say $17,000?
If you drop the bathroom and the shelving.
And that's a small amount. I guess it is.
Well, as opposed to building a new building, which y'all were looking at doing before for storage, y'all were going to build a new building on the corner over there, and you're not going to build a new metal building for $17,000.
Well, there's storage over there. So this is a temporary storage, unless, like you said, people will use it up. But in the beginning, we're going to put the storage back over in the election office.
No, there was always, from the very start, by combining tax and vehicle registration and the elections administration in the Ratliff building, we needed to do something with the storage. Where we had talked about in the past was either putting it where the break room is in the annex, which still going to take some renovation there, or building a new building is one of the things that y'all had offered, of building a new building in the corner to put that storage in there. It's stuff that gets used and touched once, maybe twice a year. And so it doesn't need to reside in the actual building where the people are functioning. So we need someplace to do that storage.
You don't think there's enough room in that building when you get through remodeling it to store it in the building, current building?
No, because we're moving tax and vehicle registration into half of that building. So we're losing.
Half of it, yeah, but the other half, you don't think that they've got a room in there to store anything?
I would suggest, Al, that we go over there and look at it, and once you see it all, you'll understand that there's a whole lot of storage in there. There's a room that's probably half of this size.
I'm familiar with that storage room over there. It's a big storage room, more than enough. If stuff was organized, probably half of it could be used. So I disagree. We're not going to have, you know. Okay.
I disagree. I'm sorry, I'll disagree. I've been over there several times.
It don't bother me.
Now, I'll grant you this. I am going under the assumption that everything that's over there needs to be stored. Now, it's not my call, but if somebody was to go over there and decide that half of that stuff can be thrown out, then I would agree with you that there's probably enough storage over there. But that's not my call to decide what gets saved and what doesn't get saved. I just know the amount of storage that's over there right now will not fit over there. Well, so if you're going to clean it out.
Well, I know that I know that a lot of the office stuff they're using for office space and other things over there could be used for, they don't need them. They could be with a lot less.
I would agree with you on that.
Okay.
But again, my charge that y'all gave me right now was to accommodate their storage. And if I accommodate the storage that they have over right now, it won't fit in the existing building. If there is some way to reduce that storage, then I can probably make it work over there.
And we had in-depth discussions about this over several meetings where the storage of what's in there had to be moved somewhere else. Again, we talked about another building over there on the pad side. We talked about moving it to the annex. We talked about several things, but it was never an assumption that we could leave everything in the Ratliff building where it is now and shove Judy Cook and her folks over there. Okay.
We've had several discussions, and we always take the path of the least resistance, and that's to build another place, to build a storage, which is, I don't think we need to, but what do I know?
Well, if you studied the situation and you can advise Chris or Al on how to store it, I'm all for that.
Well, the problem is not Chris or who, Al? Who, Chris or who?
Leonard.
Leonard, yeah, Leonard is the problem. He's not going to do with any less than he has to. He wants more, and that's human nature. I want more. We all want more of everything.
Well, he did agree to joining over there in that building. He wanted to keep the entire building. I think Leonard made some concession, and I think as efficiently as this can be done, if there was a way to keep it all over there, yes, I'd love to be able to do that. I would like to hear from Keith here for a second. Keith has previously addressed us on this project, so Keith, I'm going to give you about a minute. Will you come up here to the podium just so we can hear?
Yeah, I'm just going to take just a few seconds. We've already discussed the other parts of it. The only thing I just want to make sure that Chris is aware is that Cadell building is in the historical district of the city of Mount Pleasant. And if you're going to have to get a permit or a variance to go in there and start blocking up windows. Across the street on this, right over here on this corner, they're having to tear down the fronts of all these buildings, the Hagee building and all those. They've got to go back to 1900 photos and restore that building. You can't just go in there and cut in a 4-foot door that wasn't there in 1900. You got that all covered? So
okay, thank you. I didn't know that.
Obviously, Titus County is exempt when business people have to go back to 1900.
Well, that's not exactly correct, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
The Main Street Preservation Society I've met with, and we've actually got drawings for the new front where adult probation is and that kind of stuff. That actual side of the street, I've already had discussions with them, and anything we do there is going to be an improvement, and they already have granted that. So changing it from a 3-foot door to a 4-foot door. You're partially correct. The going back to the 1900s is not what's in the preservation. It's preserving it if it was in the 1900s. So if there was a design that was out there, that was a 1900 design, when you refurbish it, you're supposed to try to keep that. What we've got on the Madison side street on the Cadell building is not anything near a 1900 design. So anything we do is going to be an improvement on what it is. But I appreciate your concern because it is, and I'd be interested in showing you what we're doing on the adult probation because they fell in love with it, and I don't think anybody here has really seen it. It was in the drawings for the adult probation, what we're doing on the front of that building. The folks in the historic preservation and Main Street really like it, so we are adhering to that, and so, but it's good.
I had talked to Chris about this when all this started, and that we needed to get with Jacob and kind of go over this, make sure we're in line with what they're trying to do with the Main Street project. But basically, and the reason all this has come up, you have those computers. By law, they have to be secured. In other words, Leonard's really the only one supposed to really have a key to that to get in there around those computers or touch those computers. We need a climate control. We have to keep, I think, all balanced for 2 years, I believe. After 2 years or after a period of time, you can discard those balance. But there's certain things you have to go by to get that done. If I knew right now, the computers and everything is stored on the south side. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And to move that, and I agree with what you were talking about last week, the lower ceiling is going to be much more efficient. It has to be in a climate control. Once you move that out, you can remodel that south side, then Leonard and them can move their office in there, and then y'all can start on the north side. Is that correct?
Right. Let me correct. It's not all stored on the south side.
Right.
There is a room on the west end of the north side that is all where those boxes are. So it's not all on the south side.
Okay. But anyway, that's the process we're trying to go through. And you know, I thought, well, maybe we could put this over here or somewhere for a short period of time. But it's going to have to be corrected. We've got to have a place to put these computers as climate control. That's state law.
Anything else, Chris? I'm going to let these ladies
I would say I have no preference. I really don't.
I know you don't.
I just need to be able to move the stuff out so I can start construction. And if you're going to try to consolidate it over there, then somebody needs to talk with the elections folks and get them to start moving it pretty quick, because I don't want to put this out on the street unless I've got a facility ready to go, because these contractors are ready to start the day after we approve their bids. And to fit our schedule of when we're trying to get this done before the November elections, we need to be moving in by the June timeframe. So we're kind of up against a time schedule here about getting the Ratliff building started, and this is just kind of a showstopper right now. What are we going to do with the storage? There's a way to consolidate it and stack it on top of each other and just cram it in the room. That's fine, but it's only going to last for the first half, because then I got to do something with it for the second half.
Well, to consider spending 17 or 25,000 and getting a temporary place to put these things while construction is going on, and then make provisions to have them in that room, have them over there, would be cheaper to me. I know we can use it. We can always use it, but that's not the point.
I don't know that it will fit, Al.
Huh?
I don't know that it will fit over there.
Well, you can rent it
We do not have storage room designed into the Ratliff building.
Yeah.
We do not. And there's no room for it right now.
We could rent a climate-controlled storage room to put it temporarily while you were in the construction.
Okay, but then what happens after construction?
Huh?
Where does it go after construction?
You make provisions for it back in that building.
There's no room in that building for that.
I thought you said a while ago there was room.
No. I said there's never been room in that building. It's always been the plan that the storage, especially of those big boxes that he's got in that room that you know about,
I understand.
was going to go somewhere else.
I understand.
And there was never a decision about where it would go.
It's just, yeah, I understand. Just money.
Al, if you've got a better idea, we all want to hear it.
I think that you ought to take that.
I'm going to let you talk.
The election office, I think we ought to take that election office and make it the election office and make room in there on that northwest corner for storage. And if we got to increase that room a little bit and reduce these offices, let's do that. And have it all there under lock and key according to the law and all this kind of stuff, and have it all there. Now, I understand that we've got to do something in the meantime during construction. So we might even could rent a temporary climate controlled space somewhere to put them just during construction. And then they go right back in there. But there's lots of room. I mean, we're spread out really good as an election office. You're talking about the whole south side of that building, right? Okay.
Okay. Now, you referred to the northwest corner of that building. You understand that's where...
yeah, the northwest, right.
You understand that's where Judy Cook's offices are going to be?
Well, they're going to be on the south side?
No.
They're on the north side. The whole north side of that building will be...
Is Judy Cook, okay. All right. Then so that's... You've got rooms in the other side of that building.
I'll lay it down to the brass tacks here. There's inefficient storage over there right now. I agree with you 100%. Now, I don't know what they can throw out and what they can't throw out. They've got rooms over there right now that are inefficiently used, and that could be, you could probably cut the storage requirement in half, and that, or maybe a third, maybe you can cut it a third. The bottom line is though the spaces that are in elections administration don't get used on a daily basis. The only offices that get used on a daily basis in election administration are Leonard and his 2 assistants. Those are the only 3 spaces that are used on a daily basis. The rest of the space is basically reserved for the public, for the voting process that goes through there. So during the balance of the year when it's not being used, they are basically vacant spaces. Now, when you look at it, there's a lot of space there. But if those are preserved only for use during the elections, then we're not putting any storage in there. You could put the storage in there and then move it out temporarily when you get ready to do the elections for the 2 weeks out of the year. And then when the election's over, you move it back in. That's a lot of moving of stuff that may or may not be the right way to do it. And we haven't really studied doing that. Using that space that's only used 2 weeks out of the year as storage. And I think these people that are wanting to talk here are not going to like that idea either. But it's again, the whole philosophy of this thing is how are we using the space over there? The whole south half of the building right now is really unused for anything except storage. And then during the election, there's the break room and the area where the public come in and check in or wait for the election results. We also have early voting. And you have early voting in there. So again, there's a couple of weeks out of the year that it's used. The rest of the time, it's basically open space. So could that be considered storage and then moving things around for those 2 weeks?
You could make those offices a lot smaller.
Well, I'm making them 10 by 10. That's pretty small.
I mean, as I recall, you spent a lot of time talking about these storage needs over there. This isn't the first time this concept of off-site storage has come up. Let's take a side break here. Is it one of you or both of you would like to speak? One of you or both of you going to speak? Yeah, if you just come up here to the podium, please, so we can get it on the record.
It's not my intention to complicate this very much, and I think Chrissy and the people that both work down there would agree. The things that have to be climate controlled are the electronics, it's the poll books, it's the scanners that sit on top of these big rolling ballot cases. The bulk of the storage storage requirements do not have to be climate controlled. They are big metal cases that are on wheels. They're voting material bags that can be collapsed. They get to be bulky. There's some metal boxes that we do use, but they don't have to be climate controlled. The things that are climate controlled are the electronics, and that takes up very little room. The scanners that sit on top of that can be slid out and be stored within this area, and so are the poll books. So I don't know if it's going to help to the discussion, but when you're talking about storing all the electronic or all the equipment, yes, at one point it would be nice to be all in a central location. For the sake of storing for construction, I think you could get away with a smaller space, is what I'm saying. And I don't know if that adds.
You're talking about after completion of the project?
Yeah.
When you say we could.
No, even to start construction, the amount of climate-controlled storage is a lot less than I think you're talking about. You need to climate control the electronics that run the election. Am I wrong, Chrissy?
No, that's right. The big gray box is still.
The big
on the top, the gray box and stuff do not have to be.
Yeah, you.
But still, you've got some stuff that's not going to need to be in climate-controlled storage that needs to be moved out of that building, right? So even if we have a temporary storage rental and we say, okay, well, this much is going to go into a small climate-controlled storage, this much is going to go into non-climate controlled, I mean, you're saving, $100 or so.
That's what I say. The climate-controlled stuff may, in fact, fit into a space down there.
So a possible alternative here would be, let's rent temporary storage. Maybe one space of climate control, one non, and get out of there whatever we need to get out. Complete the remodel and then see what's left, and can we move some, all, none of it back into that Ratliff building in the new elections administration and forego this storage project that we're talking about here.
I don't know, you just threw something else at me in terms of logistics and when and where to move things. I'm saying for the purpose now, the temporary storage requirements of the computer parts or the electronics of the election do not have to have special consideration, because I think they can be stored in the building presently in a small area.
Well, again, if you're only talking about the during construction storage needs,
Isn't that what you're talking about?
No, we're talking about that, but we're also talking about a long-term storage situation for the items that there's not going to be enough room to store in Leonard's newly renovated 50% of his old space building. We've got to have some long-term storage for those pieces of equipment.
Taken into consideration when you're doing the remodel, correct?
Well, Chris is already, as I understand it, long ago started thinking about where was the long-term storage needs going to be. He's met with Leonard dozens of times and talked about, okay, do we have enough room in that 3,000-plus Ratliff building to put Judy Cook, all of her operations, Leonard's operations, and the things that are currently stored in that entire 3,000-square-foot building. Yes, there are efficiencies we're going to gain by reducing and making more efficient the current storage that he's got over there, but I believe, as I recall, Chris determined months ago that there needs to be something in that building moved out of that building if we're going to squeeze everybody in there.
And I would concur with that, and I think there were plans for that, correct? In other words, that you could keep some of
There were plans, and the plans were to move it over into the annex.
Right.
And so that's where we are today, is talking about finding that storage space in the annex.
Okay, and I thought that was already taken care of, that there was storage space in the annex for the non-electronic equipment.
We've always had the available square footage over there, but you can't just go dump it over there into space that's not prepped for storage. I mean, if you've been inside of that vacant annex area over there, it's very, very sparse. I mean, it's a brick wall that's just barely hanging on, and concrete floors and an open ceiling. But there's not any existing air-conditioned, ready-to-move-in storage space at the annex.
And all my point was, the electronics that the election uses right now can be stored in a very small area. For the sake of whatever you're going to talk about, for future storage, go right ahead. But for right now, you don't have to be renting climate-controlled space or even building climate-controlled space, because the space required for those electronics, there's plenty of room over there, I would expect, when you're moving things around just to do the renovation.
Okay. And long-term, your suggestion as an alternative to this construction?
I haven't done the measurements for long-term. I wouldn't even begin to get in that argument.
Okay.
But I would see the advantage of long-term having all the equipment stored at the somehow in the election office. But to service computers and to get the scanners ready for an election, to service those electronics can still be done there. You're going to move Leonard from one side to the other, and if those electronics are stored there, they should have easy access to them.
Okay. Would you like to give a comment? I'd like to hear from you what you think on this. You're the one that works over there. Can we get it all in there after we give you 50% of that building?
No, not all the big equipment there.
Would you come up here to the podium? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I think you're qualified to give us your input. And if you'll introduce yourself for us.
Chrissy Lytle, and I work at the election office. I don't think it's all going to fit if we only have half the building. It's not. I mean, the big boxes that the little machines go on are about the size of this podium, maybe a little bit wider. And we have 22 of those, I think. And then we also have the machine that sits on the table that for handicapped can vote the ballot. And those boxes they're pretty good sized boxes too. So it's not all going to fit in that building.
And the portable voting booths.
In the portable voting booths, Paul has a machine that he uses called the 650. It's huge, but it would have to stay with us. We couldn't, it would have to stay in our building because we use it every election on election night. It would have to stay with us.
We don't want to move that off-site back and forth.
Right. But I think that we can make that work for his machine, I think.
Okay. So, in your opinion, we do need to find some amount somewhere of off-site, non-Ratliff building storage to meet your needs after this remodel.
Right, right. And like Sue said, there's a small amount that has to be climate controlled, and it may fit. The stuff that has to be climate controlled may fit with us for now and just move the boxes, but when we set those boxes up, they have to be together. So we can't just take that top machine off and set it up without it. We have to keep both of those together while we're setting them up. So it would have to be, both of them would have to be climate controlled eventually for us to set them up for the elections.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well,
my recommendation is that the solution that's offered here does have a cost to it. It is a permanent solution. that also solves the temporary needs right now. She mentioned the last thing about when they put that electronic equipment back on those boxes, they service them. And one of the things that Leonard had asked for is he needed to be able to service those all. And by providing them a climate-controlled space in the Cadell building, they're stored there and they're worked on there. So it's don't want to misconstrue this, but the air conditioning is not just for those pieces. It's because they're going to be working in there while they're setting them up for the elections and stuff. So it's, since we've got a unit that was reusable, it's less expensive to go ahead and just heat and cool the whole space and have it as a workspace and a storage space that's permanent and temporary. Solve the temporary problem and the permanent problem. And
eventually part of it could be used for county offices or whatever else. We don't need 1,300 square feet of storage, but for now, we've got 1,300 square feet. Let's don't spend any money for additional walls to make it smaller. We've got the air conditioning unit over there. We don't have to buy that. All right.
The other thing I handed you is just an update on the contractor list. As we told you, we're building a list of contractors in the county, and as we go after projects, I make sure these guys get called and offered. And as I come to court, I'll update it with you and just give you the latest update. That's the latest update as of yesterday. That includes people that have bid on or are eligible to bid on in the region on projects in Titus County. That helps us get better prices.
Good long list. Everybody I can think of is on here.
Well, and I offer it to you guys too, because you guys know other folks, and I get daily somebody says, well, how come so-and-so's not on there? All I need to know is not put them on there, and then they get notified when we have a project that they may be interested in. It's been a really good list, and it's growing. So.
Okay. All right.
Here's
What do you want
a motion? And we take Chris's recommendation for the Cadell building and proceed with the remodeling of it.
I second.
Okay, let me get more specific. He's given you some options here. He talked about the drop ceiling. He talked about the restroom. What would you like to leave on or remove from that $25,077 list there?
Well, you said the restroom was one of the things you
can.
Delete
the restroom, it'll knock $5,000 off. The other thing that's relatively easy to knock off is the shelving on the walls.
But you need that shelving, do you not?
Either that or you buy it and you put up the metal shelving, you put shelving in there and you put it in there. That's the other way to do it.
Is that an entire wall of shelving? What is that?
That's what I've got drawn right now, is an entire wall of shelving.
The east wall, east half, and the south wall.
Right. You could just as easily buy equipment. I mean, it's still a cost.
I've got some metal shelving, heavy-duty metal shelving that would need to be assembled. I'd give to the county. If maybe you and I could take a look at it. I don't know how much there is there, but there's probably quite a bit.
Then I would recommend deleting the shelving too. That knocks another $3,000 off.
Well, I'd like to see us leave that shelving in there in case we can't find an alternative, but we don't want to just go in there and shove a bunch of boxes haphazardly on the floor. I can show you where that's gotten us over the years.
Well, then let me do this as a recommendation. Let's go ahead and leave it in here. We'll go ahead and look at the metal shelves that you've got. If we can use the metal shelves or get some other location, we just don't spend this money.
Okay. I'd also like to see us get a quickie bid on this just to be sure we're spending that money. It's a fairly simple job. I would imagine you could get a quick bid on that.
What I'll do is I'll ask at least 2 or 3 to give it to me and give it to me within like 48 hours so we can get it started if y'all approve this. And so if you got somebody that's interested in
if you're going to bid it like that, I think you need to send it to everybody that's on your list.
We can do that. We can do that.
Just give them the time frame restrictions that you've got, that it's got to be a quick bid. Give them a reasonable amount of time. Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupt you. Back to we've got $25,000 on this total list here. How do you want to modify that, if at all?
Well, since he recommended we could leave the restroom off, and then let y'all look at the shelving and see what.
Okay. Approve it with the shelving to be deleted if we can find an alternative. All right.
That's my question before y'all vote. At one time we talked about there might be a problem with getting this equipment in and out on the side, because I don't think you're going to be able to pull a truck or anything up and park it on that Madison.
We're going to have to pull the truck up over here. It's like we did on the demolition. We pull the trucks in over here, and we go down the sidewalk and go there.
It's ground level.
Would this be, and it's wide enough for you to move the
Yes,
steps around
yes.
across there? Because the other option would be if this south end wall, you could have put a garage opening there.
We had originally looked at that. The cost of doing that is quite significantly more than putting a 4-foot door.
But the sidewalk's wide enough for you to make the turn.
Primarily for because this wall had to be reinforced, but put a 6-foot roll-up door or 8-foot roll-up door, and have to put a header in there. And we have to rebuild.
I can't remember how it works out the end, so they can wheel it out down here, this, you don't have to go down the steps or anything.
No, it's all, the sidewalk goes down there.
We eliminated those roll-up doors, though, didn't we? We eliminated putting a roll-up door or garage type door in.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
But his idea was to put one on the south side, come around off that parking lot, which is a good idea. It's just looking for cost, and I was charged with keeping this cheap as we could. That's what I was doing.
Okay. Got a motion and a second to approve going out for some efficient, quick bids on this $25,077 project, less $5,000 to eliminate the restroom, and looking at alternatives on the $3,000 worth of shelving, bringing that total approval down to $20,077.
Let me ask you one question on that restroom. At a later date, if they had offices over there, or we do something different, that restroom could be added in, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only reason we were putting the restroom back in there is because there used to be a restroom there. It was not ADA compliant, so if we put anything back in, it had to be ADA compliant, which is why the cost is what it is. But there is drain, there is water in there right now.
Okay.
Okay, I got a motion by Commissioner Hockaday, second by Commissioner Hinton. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, got one nay. Thank you very much, Chris. Item number 11, consider and possibly approve retaining the law firm of Andrews Kurth to represent the county related to Energy Future Holdings Delaware bankruptcy. I met with some folks from the Water District as well as their attorney last week, just to kind of get an update from their perspective on the Luminant, or I'm going to call it the EFH bankruptcy, which again is a Delaware bankruptcy. We don't have any particular agenda here other than to make sure that Titus County is represented at these hearings. We have a guy there, again, this attorney that was there from Andrews Kurth that has worked with the Water Development Board out there, that said he would be glad to have his firm representing us as they are representing the Water Board in attendance of some of these meetings. And again, not that there's any particular objective we have other than just to make sure that if it's going to be beneficial for somebody to be there to represent Titus County, we will have him there representing Titus County, because sometimes folks that show up at the meetings tend to be treated maybe favorably as opposed to those that are not. I don't expect this to be a big, relatively speaking, legal bill, but I would sure hate to miss out the county's absence if there might be an opportunity where we would be better served by having representation. And if we approve this, then Andrews Kurth will put together a retainer package which we can approve at, you know, dollar-wise at a subsequent meeting. Right now, I can't quantify this for you.
Well, I'm appalled. If we want to hire somebody to do this, and we didn't want to hire an engineer to watch a $1.84 million bridge work over, just somebody to represent us and tell us what was going on that knew engineering talk, I'm appalled. And I, frankly, what does the appraisal district do? Do they?
I don't know. I can't speak for them.
Won't they follow? Don't they have lawyers? They did before when they had a disagreement with Luminant about the.
Well, this is a totally totally unrelated matter. We're talking there. You're referring to, I think, talking about valuation of the plant.
Yes.
This has nothing to do with the valuation of the plant. This just has to do with how we'll. And we're not really we're kind of somewhat unique. We're not really a creditor. We're a taxing entity that relies on tax payments that are made by this entity, and we will certainly hope that that will continue. But I would like to see us have somebody with eyes and ears in attendance at these meetings on behalf of the county that's representing the county's best interest. Is it absolutely mandatory? No. Is it good business? I think that it is.
We don't have any idea what the cost would be to hire this firm if they're not.
At this point, I don't. And again, I think that we're taking advantage of the fact that they're going to be there representing the water board, and perhaps we can, share some of those expenses. But as far as this, I don't expect this to be a large legal bill. We'll have a better idea after I talk to the gentleman's name is Lino. I think he can give me a better idea. And obviously, if he's just there listening and reporting back to us, I think the expense is minimal. If we get to a point where I'm sure glad that they're there on behalf because they've had to do this, this, and this, obviously the fees will be more, but I think that our appreciation of the fact that we had them there represented would be even more felt. So no, I can't quantify this for you, but I'll do the best that I can to give you an idea before we approve a dollar amount.
I'd like to make a motion we approve the retainer.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton. I'll second it. All those in favor of having Andrews Kurth represent us and us being able to enter into an agreement with them, holding off on approval of a dollar amount until I can report back to you. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. Abstain. Any particular reason?
I don't know. I don't quite believe that we do, but I'm not sure I know all the details, so I don't think I'm qualified to say yes or no.
I don't think any of us are qualified to know what the absolute best answer is here, but again, I think that it would be a minimal expense. If it weren't, I would tell you this is a large sum of money, and I want you to be aware of it. I don't think that that's the case, but I will let you know on that. Okay, so we have 4 ayes and 1 abstain. Item number 12, consider and possibly approve travel and seminars. These first 2 are from Lakeitra Brooks and Kristen Little. These are Leonard's employees, and I understand the county will be reimbursed. Who is it that reimburses us? State funds is what you've put on here, you were provided some money by the state that keeps the county from actually incurring these costs. And you all are asking to go to 32nd Annual Election Law Seminar in Austin, Texas on July 7th, 8th, and 9th. $150 registration, per diem for meals 3.5 days. Hotel, motel, about $120 plus tax per night. Traveling in a personal vehicle with about 610 miles, about $1,005 per each of you. But once again, this $1,005.50 will be fully reimbursed to the county by the state, so it will cost us $0. Okay? Those are the first 2. Then these next 3 are from John Mark Coburn's office. This is a request for John Mark Coburn, Paul Lindsay, his investigator, and Kristen Frazier, his legal assistant, to attend one-day conference, Brady and Ethics Seminar in Dallas, Texas on June the 13th. No registration costs, no meals, no hotel, no nothing. Total dollars, $0. So I guess he's just letting us know that he is going, and any travel expenses are covered in Mr. Coburn's travel allowance. They're going to be traveling together again on that one-day seminar. That's all.
Make a motion to approve travel and seminars.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item number 13, approve oral and written reports.
Make a motion to approve reports.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hinton for approval.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Hockaday. All those in favor of approval of the oral and written reports of officials, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 14, consider and possibly approve Treasurer's report. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve treasurer's report.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton to approve the report. Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of approval of the Treasurer's report, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Riddle? Aye. Aye. Okay, opposed? There's none. Item number 15, approve budget amendments.
Judge, I've got 4 budget amendments, it's 25 through 28. Number 25 is the budgeting for the election building that y'all approved last meeting, the $185,000, so that has to be budgeted. And that comes out of the fund balance. 26 and 27 are $537 adjustments for bond registration fees on the bonds that come out of the two INS funds. And then 28 is another line item change on precinct 4 to finish up the rest of that.
It has to do with that cover.
It's just moving the line item.
Moving culvert costs out of road oil costs. We have 2 relatively small ones for bond registration fees, $537 each on that. The big one is the $185,000 on the election building renovation.
Make a motion to approve budget amendments.
Okay, this is budget for the elections or for the not for adult probation?
No, it's for the elections. It's for the one you just voted on. I think it should be attached behind it.
Sorry, that.
Another one for probation, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's already been done.
Okay, that dollar amount is what caught me off guard. Okay, 134 plus the 51 for a total of $185,478. Anybody want to see any of these or ask any more questions? Okay, was that a motion?
I made a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Hockaday and second by Commissioner Hinton for approval. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item number 16, sign pay orders and approve payments.
Motion fair bills.
Motion by Commissioner Hockaday. Second by Commissioner Hinton to pay these bills. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 17, closing comments. I'll start on my left end. Commissioner Hockaday.
The only thing that I've got is on 3140, the road that we put the culvert and all in, that's back open, and all the rains that we had this past week, my fingers was crossed, it was going to part up, might wash out, but it all held and it was doing good, so
Anything else?
that's all I got.
Commissioner Hinton?
I have nothing, Judge. Thank you.
All right, I don't have anything.
Commissioner Riddle?
I need to point out that if for the benefit that don't know, that $366,000, the grant, that grant is funded by the energy companies, not taxpayers, to fix the roads that we were talking about earlier today. And just
Well, that's not exactly accurate.
10% of it is ours.
Well, they contribute monies in the form of different fees, et cetera, to the state of Texas. Those fees are then in turn have been allocated out, but they're not sending a bill to the energy companies for the amount that Titus County is collecting. There are fees inherent in being in the energy production business that these firms do have to pay, but it was a separate decision on behalf of our lawmakers to take some monies that are in the state coffers in order to come up with this amount of money, some $250 million.
It's not tax dollars.
Well, yeah, it's tax dollars. It is tax dollars. I mean,
Some of it is.
Some of it
Has to
is.
be.
it is tax
That's
dollars.
not the way I understood it.
Well, again, however you want to describe what those monies are that these oil companies pay, they pay taxes, they pay fees, fines, et cetera, into the state coffers, and the state has made a decision to allocate some of the state's money. So is it a direct pipeline coming in and going out, coming straight from these energy companies? No, it is not. It is not.
But the fees are from the energy company.
They contribute toward it, but they don't pay for all of it. But again, as oil and gas activities increase, those fees increase. And so the state, after many years of requests, finally recognized that the counties were being hit with an awful lot of burden from energy production, and that was the original idea behind these grant monies, is to give the states, not by a long shot are they repairing all the roads in the state of Texas that are hurt by energy production. I'd say they're giving a small fraction of it, but at least it's a decent start. And it will enable Philip especially to benefit on the repair of some of his roads. Will it fix all of his roads? By no means. But every little bit helps, and $366,000 certainly helps. Anything else? All right, with a motion, we will stand adjourned.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton and Hockaday, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.